The Galactic Military Academy stood as a monument to interstellar cooperation, where species from across the known universe trained side by side. Within its crystalline walls, young warriors learned the arts of combat, strategy, and diplomacy. Among them was Kendall, the only human in her cohort, a peculiarity that made her both a curiosity and a target. Kendall had arrived at the academy 3 months prior, her small frame dwarfed by the towering Crithians, the armored Verlax, and the multilimbs. Humans were new to the Galactic Council, their admission controversial. Many species viewed them as weak, their planet barely past its industrial age when first contact occurred. Kendall carried that burden silently, determined to prove her species worthy. Roman was a Crithian, standing nearly 8 feet tall with chitinous plates covering his muscular form. His family held a prestigious military lineage spanning generations, and he wore that legacy like armor. From the moment Kendall stepped into the training grounds, Roman had made it his personal mission to expose what he called the human weakness. His taunts were constant, his provocations relentless. Another pathetic performance. Human Roman sneered after combat drills one afternoon. His mandibles clicked with amusement as other cadets watched. Perhaps your species should return to their little blue planet before someone gets hurt. Kendall met his gaze without flinching, her jaw set. She had endured worse during her selection. Trials on Earth. Roman's words were just noise. The incident occurred during free combat training in the arena, a vast circular space where cadets could spar under supervision. Instructor Vextel, a veteran Verlax warrior, monitored from the observation platform above. The rules were simple: controlled engagement, safety protocols active, yield when necessary. Roman had been particularly aggressive that day, his challenges growing bolder. When Kendall entered the arena for her scheduled session, she found him waiting, his crest raised in challenge. "Let's make this interesting," human Roman announced, loud enough for the gathering crowd. "No safety protocols, real combat, unless you're too frightened." Kendall knew the trap. Refusing would confirm every prejudice about human cowardice. Accepting meant risking serious injury. Instructor Vextel was reviewing another cadet's technique across the arena, his attention temporarily diverted. "Standard protocols," Kendall replied calmly. "Academy rules exist for everyone. Roman, even you." Roman's laugh echoed through the space. "Your species hides behind rules because you're prey animals. On my world, we would have already." He lunged without warning, his massive form closing the distance with frightening speed. Kendall barely rolled aside, his clawed hand gouging the floor where she'd stood. The crowd gasped. This wasn't a sanctioned match. "Roman, stand down." Vextel's voice boomed across the arena, but he was too far away. Obstacles between him and the combatants. Roman pressed his advantage, his attacks coming in brutal succession. Kendall dodged and weaved, her smaller size allowing her to slip through openings his bulk couldn't follow. What she was being driven into a corner, Roman's strategy clear. He wanted to humiliate her, to make her beg for mercy in front of everyone. "Is this what humans do?" Roman taunted, his strikes forcing her backward. "Run and hide. Where is your warrior spirit?" Something shifted in Kendall's eyes. Throughout her time at the academy she had maintained careful control, following protocols, respecting boundaries. She had swallowed insults and endured condescension because she represented more than herself. But Roman had crossed a line, and in that moment, something ancient awakened in her DNA. The legacy of a species that had clawed its way to the top of a hostile planet's food chain. "You want to see human spirit?" Kendall's voice was quiet, dangerous. "You should have left the safety protocols on." What happened next would become legendary in Academy history. Kendall stopped retreating. Instead, she moved forward, inside Roman's guard, where his size became a disadvantage. Her movements flowed with a grace that seemed choreographed, but held a brutal efficiency that shocked the observers. Humans, the other species would learn, possessed something unique, a capacity for endurance born from persistence hunting. Spatial awareness developed from being both predator and prey, and most terrifyingly, an ability to override their own safety limiters when threatened. On Earth, they called it an adrenaline response. Kendall's strikes targeted joints and weak points with surgical precision. When Roman swung with his full strength, she used his momentum against him, redirecting rather than blocking. The Crithian's advantage is his size, his strength. His armored hide became irrelevant against an opponent who fought like water, flowing around obstacles. Roman roared in frustration and pain, as Kendall's elbow found the soft tissue beneath his mandible. His counterattack was wild, desperate. She ducked under it, swept his legs with a technique that should have been impossible against his weight, and as he fell, she was already moving, her knee driving into his thorax. The crack echoed through the arena. Instructor Vextel finally reached them, his massive form interposing between the combatants. "Cease, both of you. Cease immediately." But it was too late. Roman lay on the ground, his breathing labored, several plates cracked, his pride shattered more completely than his armor. Kendall stood 3 feet away, her chest heaving, her knuckles bloodied, her eyes still carrying that dangerous light. The silence in the arena was absolute. "Medics," Vextel called, his voice carrying both urgency and something else. Was it respect? He turned to Kendall. "Cadet, you will report to no." The voice came from the entrance. Commander Shaltith, the Academy's highest authority, entered with measured steps. The ancient Zenthari studied the scene with her multifaceted eyes. "Instructor Vextal, your report will note that Roman initiated unauthorized combat." Cadet Kendall responded with appropriate force to defend herself. She approached Kendall, who stood at attention despite her exhaustion. "Your species is young to the stars, human, but you carry something. We had forgotten the fire of those who fight not from tradition but from necessity. Roman sought to teach you about warrior spirit. Instead, you taught him." As Medex carried Roman away, Commander Shaltith addressed the assembled cadets. "Let this be a lesson. Strength comes in many forms. Underestimate none of them." Kendall's reputation transformed that day. Roman eventually recovered, humbled and wiser. He never apologized with words, but weeks later, he began leaving human combat manuals outside Kendall's quarters. A silent acknowledgement. The instructor had indeed stopped the fight too late to prevent Roman's defeat. Too late to maintain the illusion of human weakness, and too late to stop the galaxy from learning what Earth had always known. Never corner a human. They came from a world that taught them to fight back.